Hi there, welcome to Gaining Vision. I'm Melanie. Thanks so much for clicking. To my returning subscribers, thank you for your continuous love and support. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please feel at home. Have you had an opportunity to subscribe to the channel yet? If not, take a second, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to like and share. We all know that politicians dread the dreaded media. Journalists are a pain in their resistance, pain in their side. They really don't like being confronted by the hard questions. In fact, many of them will elude or do the dance, as I call it, back and forth, avoiding answering the questions, pretending they don't hear correctly, or getting offended and coming out and biting their heads off. Now, this is not just politicians, because some journalists and reporters are not so well prepared. We've talked about this many times in previous videos. However, I was surprised to see Julius Malema, the leader of the EFF, had opened up an opportunity I'd never seen before. And we've seen that the EFF hold many press conferences where the media can come and ask questions, but it's very, very structured. They call on people, everybody has a chance to ask their question, and then Julius will go through and answer all the questions addressed. He doesn't seem to avoid any questions. He usually opens up and answers honestly, but this was a completely different forum. He invited many journalists to come and have an open dialogue, and in fact, he referred to it as the interrogation.
We're coming to you live from the EFF headquarters. You are welcome to our public interrogation, wherein we're going to have, yes, it is called a public interrogation, Mahlatsi. We're going to have a full-on conversation. The President, Commander-in-Chief, is going to have a full-on conversation with 5 journalists who are going to ask him any question. At any point, they'll be able to interrupt. There is no question that is off the table. Every question is permissible, and the journalists will be given the opportunity to ask as many questions and even to make follow-up. So it's more conversational, interactive. You can interrupt. You can follow on to the sort of issue. So what is beautiful about this setup is that unlike a press conference when there's a contingency of journalists, there is hands. There is no necessarily a need for hands. You can just come in and say, this is what I think you should be addressing, and this is what my question means. So welcome to the EFF public interrogation. This is part and parcel of being transparent, open, but also to be accessible to the questions that have been asked in silos. Let us directly interact. And so to those journalists who are at home, who want to ask questions, we've provided our WhatsApp number in the journalists WhatsApp group that we set up. So if there is anything that arises after we've given some time to the journalists that are sitting here, we will be able to latch on that too. The Commander-in-Chief is here with us. There are 3 journalists as it stands.
He allowed journalists to come and have a candid conversation, no structure, just a dialogue, where they were able to ask questions, make rebuttals straight away, and call him on stuff when they didn't agree. This was a really unique thing, and I had never seen a politician do anything of this sort. In fact, I don't think I've seen even entertainers do this, because it puts you into a very precarious situation where you can't get out of it because you've committed to this.
Oh, thank you very much. And let's take this opportunity to thank the journalists who have made time. Following the press conference of the Hawks and the NPA about the VBS saga, I had some fellow asking about my involvement and that of the Deputy President of the EFF. And I therefore subsequently gave him a call to try and check why is he putting my name into matters that I'm not involved. And I explained to him the long history of how we've been accused from time to time. And I advised him that if we can assemble a group of journalists, perhaps 5, predominantly African, who can come and engage us on these matters.
Julius came in very at ease. He sat down with all of the different reporters, journalists in the room, and set a really nice conversational tone, very light, open, started with easy questions, and the journalist started to feel very much at ease, calling him by his first name and really asking questions and follow-up questions just like that. Usually you'll pause, let the person think and answer, but Julius was on the ball. He was ready. He was prepared. He wanted to answer openly and not hide.
Now, you will know I was arrested in Polokwane for OnPoint tenders, and I went to court. Since my arrest in Polokwane, I've never missed a court date. I've always been there. But NPA kept on postponing. Some of the accused will also ask for postponement for this or that reason. Not once did I ask for postponement. My last appearance in Polokwane court, I said to the judge, since these people are applying for postponement, can I be separated and be trialed alone? Because I've always wanted to be accountable. I thought that gave me an opportunity to be held accountable. So the judge said to me, you cannot apply to be separated. Only the NPA can apply to separate you. And the judge extended the invitation to the NPA and said, he wants to be separated. Why not take the opportunity? The NPA said, we're not going to do that. And as a result, the judge removed the matter from the roll and said to the NPA, you can institute the matter anytime you want to institute the matter. Then the favorite NPA head came and said she's reinstituting the matter and she's charging Lisiba and them, and excluded me from being charged, at least for now, because she wants to see what will come out of the trial. So she wouldn't charge me. She will not charge me. Even in the future, she can't charge me. Even if she charges me, she will never succeed because I'm not involved in those things. Limpopo had a budget of 47 billion. OnPoint got a tender of 50 million. Wrongly or rightfully so, I don't want to deal with that. How can a tender of 50 million collapse a budget of 47 billion?
Sorry. Just to interrupt you there on the 50 million. On OnPoint, you, through your family trust, were a shareholder of OnPoint Engineering. Surely you can't say you were not interested or not bothered on that 50 million rands contract because it impacted on your financial and economic upward mobility in life, because surely as a shareholder of OnPoint Engineers through Ratanang, you would get some sort of proceeds from the profits that would be generated on that contract.
It's a common cause. It's undisputed. So why do you want to canvass the grounds that are not disputed? I'm a shareholder in OnPoint. I got money on OnPoint. Madonsela makes that point. So the matter of whether OnPoint got a tender rightfully or wrongly is now before court. All I'm saying is, you cannot have a tender of 50 million, collapse a province of a budget of 47 billion. So the intention has always been to smear me, to delegitimize me, so that I do not add my voice in the anti-corruption project of the country. So Castle was the premier, Pinky was the MEC, Masondo was the MEC. All these people who presided over that government are today ministers or deputy ministers in the clean government. The dark cloud of having collapsed the government of Limpopo remains with me, who has never been in government. But where, Samkel, maybe you'll teach me, where have you ever seen a situation where the corrupt get charged, but there is no the corruptee? No one is charged from government, the collapsed government of Limpopo. The person who has enabled that corruption in Limpopo. In the indictment on OnPoint, nowhere do they say Malema bribed this one or that one in order to get the tender. So if I influenced the tender, since I was not in government, who did I influence? And what was the power of this person? And why is this person not charged? If the matter is legitimate and want to resolve the problem of corruption. That is with regard to OnPoint in Limpopo.
He does say how it is. And sometimes some of the journalists got a little bit offended. In fact, some of them almost threatened to leave when they didn't like what was being said. But I will say this, that Julius stuck to what he promised. He answered all the questions openly. They were definitely interrogating him. And I thought he's brave because they were asking some hard questions. They had proof and they were reading things that were said before. Now, Julius, of course, set them straight when he did not agree and just got them thinking back on track to where he was coming from.
Not a single
But
one.
you are, Julius.
Yeah.
And perhaps the one SMS that we can go to is
Yes.
the one that Floyd Shivambu sent to the former Minister of Finance, Nene.
Yes.
And just to quote there, he says, "Greetings, Minister. It looks like VBS will be placed under curatorship, mainly due to something that National Treasury had not clarified in terms of accounts of municipalities," right?
Yeah.
So this was a clear attempt by the second in command of the EFF to try and influence a decision on putting VBS under curatorship. We also know on record that the EFF played quite a strategic role in terms of communication via a press release, where you were very critical of the Reserve Bank putting the bank under curatorship. So there were at least mechanizations by the EFF to stop the bank from being placed under curatorship. You clearly had an interest there.
Yes. But you're deflecting. She says there's an SMS. I'll come to that.
Okay.
There's an SMS that says EFF. It's a strategic entity to be influenced. I'm saying to her, there is no such communication. There isn't. Nowhere can you find a communication that says Julius is strategic, Floyd is strategic, EFF is strategic. There's no such a communication.
So if there is no such communication,
Yes.
why
Now,
is it that
the EFF opposed on principle, even now, we still stand by that position that the VBS was supposed to have been rescued because it was one of the black banks. And the VBS should have been given a full banking license. And anyone found to have violated the banking regulations should be charged and blacklisted not to practice banking anywhere in the country.
But
Because-
even now, Julius, you're still defending the SARB putting VBS under curatorship. I mean, given what we have seen from the forensic report about the great heist, right? How do you, at this point, say the bank should have not put VBS under curatorship when so many people have lost their money? And clearly there was mismanagement of that bank, and there are still hundreds of old people, pensioners who have lost their life savings. And today you're still saying, in principle, they should never have put it under curatorship.
I still maintain, rescue a black bank, arrest the criminals, hold them accountable, recover the money, and pay the depositors. But the idea of a black bank being closed under a democratic government, under a government which never established any bank, that bank was established by the Bavenda king, existed under difficult times. Why should it be closed now? Should we just close a bank because there are criminal elements in the banks, or should we arrest the criminal elements? Let's arrest criminal elements and rescue the bank.
It was an interesting bantering back and forth, each journalist having opportunities to ask questions. Others have followed. Now, some of the journalists did monopolize some of the time. And in fact, some of the journalists didn't even show up after they were invited.
If you have nothing to hide, why are you excluding Polly van Wyk? Because she's the one who has been writing stories about you. And I immediately gave some girl a call and said, please extend the invite to Polly van Wyk, which he did and subsequently Vuyani did. In the conversation between Vuyani and Polly van Wyk, Polly said she's in Cape Town and therefore not able to travel. Vuyani said the planes are now open. You can travel. Then Polly said, I don't have a permit. Vuyani said, you are a journalist. The permits are given to journalists. Then she said, no, actually, my husband is a doctor, and I'm with the family, and my husband is overexposed, and I don't want to risk anyone's life. But I can give you the number of Mika Reddy, to come and join because he wrote about VBS as well. And then contact, but I will join through Zoom or Skype. So she had committed to join through Zoom or Skype. Then Mika said they can't join. They collectively took a decision not to join. So that's where we come from with the Polyfund Vic. Different excuses given, trying to find every reason not to be here and take this opportunity to answer. To ask questions.
Now, some of the journalists were brought in from different broadcasters to have different perceptions, and you knew that they had an agenda coming in to this interrogation. They wanted to get to the bottom of certain topics, and it was very interesting to watch them go on the attack. Julius didn't feel as if he was being attacked, though, because he knew what he was opening himself up to. He stayed calm, cool, and collective as they asked him some hard questions about VPS, as well as other questionable things that he had encountered.
We don't oppose
Julius,
that.
do you now see, though, right? On the one hand, you as a political party and senior members of that political party trying to save this particular bank, and then subsequently reports of you, allegations of you and Floyd in particular having benefited. Do you see why there would be questions around, did you defend it because you knew there were people close to you that were benefiting from VBS and you were trying to protect that, and also by extension, you were also benefiting?
No, I see that as trying to silence us in protecting a black bank. So anyone who protects blackness must be labeled as corrupt, and I will never buy into that. I've got no one close to me who benefited from VBS, no one. And I've never benefited from VBS. I'm saying to you, Matlatsi, we are here now. I'm giving you an opportunity to present to me and to the country an evidence of me taking a political position because I'm benefiting out of it.
The idea and topic of corruption came up, and Julius had stayed very, very calm, ensuring that his facts were there. He had proof and he shared proof. And when the journalists asked questions that they didn't have facts and figures for, he asked them to prove it.
Because there are many questions. She's led the story of VBS and would have been great to have her in the room. But I also understand why she made a decision not to. But coming back to the issue of VBS and EFF, is the one thing she's managed to show is that VBS was seen as critical throughout. EFF was seen as critical. Have you not asked yourself why, if you've never had communications with these people, why would they look at your party?
But it's CD, let's not talk general. We're no longer gossiping now. We're dealing with facts. Read an SMS where they said EFF is strategic of Polyfund Vic. Read it to me.
All right, I think
there's no any form of communication in Vele, in VBS, in any of the evidence displayed by you where they describe EFF as being strategic. No.
Again, not in a disrespectful way, but he was hard. He didn't let anybody get away with anything, which I appreciated, because not only has he let himself sit there for hours on end to be interrogated, and again, I use that word because that's the word he used, on these hard questions, but also on what he was going to do and where the party was going.
Mr. Malema, you cannot use the issue of a black face to fight corruption in this instance, because you are basically just deflecting the issue. On the issue of you benefiting from VBS, for instance, there is this bank card that Polly has done magnificent work on. Wherever you were, be it Cape Town, be it in the land hearings in the Northwest, be it in the Eastern Cape, be it at the Durban July, this credit card is always where you are, and it's Mahuna Investments, which received over 4.3 million rands from Gameka Investments, which got monies from VBS, which is a company owned by Brian Chivambu. So why is this credit card or bank card always where you are?
Well, my brother is always where I am. He's a brother of mine. We work together. So there is no problem if his card gets to be used where I am. He is here now. The card might be used somewhere here now. Let's take Durban July, for instance. My brother's company hosted a marquee in Durban July where they sell tickets and they sell alcohol to people. If you go to the hotel, and you can't say You know, you celebrating mediocre, ne? Because you say Polly van Wyk did an excellent work with this card. That is, there's no excellent work. It's a bank statement. Durban, coming back here, your friend Polly did an excellent work, right? The excellent work, Matlas, would be knowing that I didn't drive from Durban July. I flew. Because he says Malema on his way back from Durban July, he bought Nando's. But I flew from Durban. I didn't drive. So why would I buy Nando's? My brother in all the rallies of the EFF, he's there. All of them, by the way. All my cousins are active business people in their own right, and they're EFF members and EFF leaders. We spend most of the time together.
It was a wonderful dialogue that was open, and I feel that the journalists were happy when it came to the end because they asked for more of the same.
It was really amazing.
Okay,
This is great, by the way. This is great, by the way. I hope that we'll get more of
Okay,
these
we
type
can
of
go.
opportunities, and we must call it the Malema format. You know, so when we get to the press briefings, they must ask Guti what
Okay.
format you want.
Okay, thank you for coming, Aldred. Next time be early, Aldred.
That's my show. What do you mean?
I think that Julius will definitely keep that format going because it's unique. It sets him apart from the other politicians in South Africa who are very limited in the way that they address, if at all. I find it interesting, a lot of the political parties, the leaders themselves don't do many interviews, meaning the big leaders of the party. The other leaders, the secretary generals, other members of the cabinet, they will definitely do interviews, but I find very rare do you see the president of the different parties coming forward and being as open and candid as Julius had been in this interview. Now, we know that nobody is perfect, and of course, sometimes tone of voice can be misconstrued, whether on the reporter or broadcaster's perspective, or even on Julius's perspective. But I think overall, the tempers were held at a level that was doable. It was a productive conversation. I encourage you to check this out, and it's very interesting to see the different tactics and perspectives the journalists brought to the table. Again, it was a very comfortable and conversational platform, so there was really no professionalism in the sense that, proper, excuse me, Mr. Malema, I'd like to know blah, 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 blah. It was more like, hey, Julius, what do you think of this? And I think that allowed the broadcasters and journalists to feel more comfortable asking some of the harder questions. What is your perspective? Take a listen and let me know. Drop your comments in the comment below and let's have a dialogue about it. It's important for us to be open to see different perspectives. And that's one thing I will say I really appreciate about Julius Malema and the EFF is they're innovative, they're proactive, and they're progressive. They come up with unique, different ways to communicate with the media, with the press. Perhaps not their favorite thing to do, and perhaps, yes, they've been called out on things in the past, but I think by being open to having these conversations, you'll see a very different relationship with Parliament going forward, with the media, if only this can be held together. I'd like to see other political parties try a candid conversation with broadcasters to see how they do. Until next time, please don't forget to hit that notification button, like and share, and we'll see you later. Bye.